My coworker stole my position, and now I get to watch her struggle. I'm a teacher at a decently affluent public school. For the most part, I love my job. I've made genuine friends among the staff members, and the students make the hard work worth it. There are, of course, the negative parts of teaching you always hear about. Low pay, grading on off hours, etc. But for the most part, the deal has been good. A few years back, I was recognized by my old boss as a potential leader in the building. He stressed to me that I was very data-oriented and likable among my colleagues. I know my way around Google Sheets and Excel when it comes to collecting and organizing student data, and I'm really solid with parent communication. I was hesitant, but eventually I agreed to become a leader for a group of teachers and students at the school, in charge of organizing meetings, overall student education success, etc. That old boss who promoted me left, and I was stuck with a new boss who I didn't know well. I feel like this is honestly such a common thing for a boss that really liked you and saw how great you were to leave, and then a new boss comes in and shakes things up. I feel like all new bosses, when you get hired into positions, need to get the lay of the land. Then again, they could be hired to cut spending, and then people are paid too much, or that's how they think. So then they just make your life hell until you quit so they can hire someone cheaper. Yeah, it never fails, honestly. Here's where things get messy. I have a sensory processing disorder and mild hearing loss. It's hard to explain, but sometimes I genuinely do not hear things correctly. Think if you said, I'm gonna pick up Stacy, I might hear something like, I'm just gonna wait and see. This happens at least once a day and usually isn't that big of a deal, but unfortunately it isn't curable, and I managed. In meetings with my new boss would push strategies that were based around focusing on students whose test scores were almost passing. The idea was that you would focus on all students but give extra attention to those guys. These initiatives were never written down, and I would find out later that was because the legality of such a thing is iffy at best. Oh, tea. When these ideas were shared with me, I would constantly ask the boss after the meeting to repeat herself, then check my notes to make sure I heard her correctly. I noticed at the time that she was passively frustrated that I would do this, even though I explained I had a hearing disorder. Looking back, I wonder if she felt pressured, knowing what we were doing wasn't kosher, and if I made a bad impression. Yeah, I mean, she could have gotten uncomfortable with the fact that you needed to write things down, and also, by writing things down, have a record.
Thus leaving crucial evidence.
Now to introduce the main character of the story, who I'll call Tenny, since she's the coach of the tennis team. Tenny is well liked by staff members for her years of service toward our community in a particular area. I also liked Tenny a lot, and I figured she'd be a great team member. Tenny, however, like my boss, became repeatedly frustrated when I would miss things she would say to me, especially in crowded high school hallways. Sometimes she would even shout something to me as she walked past me. This led to many gaffes and mistakes. I asked her repeatedly to pause and make sure I got what she was saying, or just to email me. Nothing changed. There were at least 5 or 6 big moments that my hearing wasn't accommodated for when a simple email could have solved the problem. Just as one example, my new boss came into the hallway to let me know that an assembly location was being changed. We were to take the students to a new area, not the old one. Of course, I heard a change, but didn't hear the location. Tenny was the only one nearby. I tapped my ear, which I usually do to indicate I didn't hear something, and asked where we were going. Tenny quickly responded and walked away. I once again didn't understand. Cue me and my students walking into the assembly 5 minutes late after walking them around the building in confusion. My new boss asked what happened, and I told her simply I didn't hear her correctly. Weeks later, I was called into a meeting with my new boss, and she told me I was going to lose my leader position due to inconsistency and disrespect toward colleagues. I wouldn't call that disrespect. I would call the reason discrimination. I asked her which colleagues, and she told me that was private. I asked her how I was disrespectful, and she said sometimes you get frustrated when you say you can't hear things and tap your ear. How is that disrespectful?
I don't know.
I said that was the ASL sign for hear, as in I can't hear you. She said I should have communicated that. You're communicating that you can't hear. I said I've asked for written communication constantly. She said I shouldn't always expect it. Why? Because that would mean that you have to put everything in writing. I knew it was a losing game, and any explanation I would provide would just be shot down. I loved the school and the community, and fighting the new boss was only going to lead to more problems. I shouldn't have been surprised when a school-wide email went out that Tenny was going going to get the leader position. Tenny was praised by colleagues in reply alls, and it was frustrating to say the least. I know she was the one who complained, and it was extremely bitter for me to see her rewarded for it. Oh my goodness. They probably kikied about the fact that you have a disability. They're the only ones that agree with each other. Cue the next school year. Tenny comes into my room and asks me for student data sheets that I created with Google Sheets. I told her truthfully that even if I did share them with her, there wasn't anything she could do with them. I brought her over to my computer and showed her the formulas I worked with and how I needed to adjust them every time a new student, section, etc. was added to the roster. She then asked me if I could just continue updating these sheets outside of my leader position. I told her as professionally as possible that I would love to teach her how to do all the things, but I would need a stipend to do so. Oh, interesting that she's asking you to share her work with her. She asked if any of the other leaders were doing what I did. I said they weren't. I was the only one and always had been. I'm a bit ashamed to say I didn't take joy in seeing Tenny's face go cold when she realized I wasn't gonna fold and there was nothing she could do except cope with the hours of data work per year or become proficient in Sheets and Excel, something I knew she wasn't going to do. And here's the real kicker: the parents. Parents of students 99% of the time are a joy to work with. I really mean that. It's so fun to work with the parents of the people I care the most about, but it's the 1% that make your life a living hell. I've overheard Tenny complaining about being on the phone with a 1% parent for 45 minutes, losing her entire grading time. A call like that would have taken me about 5 minutes tops, since I have the experience of knowing how to stop circular arguments and get the parent on my side for an issue. What has taken me minutes is taking Tenny sometimes hours. Yes, she's getting my $1,500 stipend, but I no longer have to deal with extra meetings, extra parent phone calls, miscommunication, etc. She's getting all the pain I got and more. I feel ashamed that I'm taking so much joy for this, but Tenny made my life hell in a place I otherwise loved. Have fun, Tenny. I honestly fail to understand why you didn't fight back here. I understand that, it's all nice and good that you don't have to do more work and deal with the shitty parts of your job as much, but you lost your position due to discrimination. I firmly believe that. Just because they didn't say that's why you lost it doesn't mean that that's why you lost it, I feel like this new boss is already shady because she got uncomfortable with you taking notes. She probably can't cut corners anymore because you need to have literally everything in writing. That's the real reason why she doesn't want to put it in writing. It's not an inconvenience. Most people follow up important conversations, and I've told you to do this before, with writing, with emails, with text, anything in writing. Asking to do it out of necessity because you need to hear is not an inconvenience. I love it. Now find a less ableist school to work at. I was thinking the same thing. By law, your boss should provide accommodations for your hearing impairment. Emails instead of shouting directions across the hallway is a simple accommodation. In fact, I feel like that people not accommodating you is disrespectful toward you, not the other way around, which he failed to provide. Have you considered consulting with an employment attorney? Some people are saying, okay, you're saying this is ableist, but this is just good old fashioned. I don't want a paper trail, and I want to work with someone who will play ball with me from the boss. Could be. It's difficult to know what it's actually about, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the real reason. We got some more spicy work stories for you. I ain't done yet. Boss fires me illegally, ends up paying for it. Smell that? I smell Betty Revenge. Hi everyone. Here's how my ex-boss and his brilliant management team tried to exploit me and ended up handing me the perfect revenge on a silver platter. Petty? Quite a lot. In my country, this is rarely done. A few years ago, I, female 35, worked as an SEO copywriter and SSM for a well-known Italian company. I spoke and reported directly to Big Boss, General Manager, and Mini Boss. When they hired me, they forced me to open a VAT number and work as a freelancer. In reality, I worked exclusively for them. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, just like a full-time employee. This is not exactly fair. I told them, they said, not to worry, you'll find more connections through us. Never happened. For those that don't know, VAT is like European tax. I did my job impeccably, always on time, never missed a deadline, and received plenty of praise from management and customers via emails and messages. The twist: the mini boss's girlfriend and the big boss's mistress, yes, both on payroll, were hopeless at their jobs. They made mistakes, dumped their work on others, and only survived thanks to their connections. I didn't hide my opinion, especially when their mistakes meant more work for everyone else. After 7 months, out of nowhere, the mini boss tells me in person, no written notice, which is illegal, your services are no longer required. I asked to speak with Big Boss too, request denied. I smiled and said, this isn't over. He looked nervous and asked, are you threatening the company? I replied, threats are for people who aren't sure they'll win. I'm making a promise. It's just a matter of time. I love that. It's not a threat, it's a fact. With my lawyer, I started legal action for wrongful termination and labor law violations. Here's where it gets delicious. The big boss, in his infinite wisdom, replied to my lawyer's official communication with a long, angry email full of insults and personal attacks. Ooh, in writing? Ooh, no.
Not a great plan.
Thank you for the extra evidence, I guess. That's stupid. You stupid. After a year, because Italian bureaucracy is slow as hell, they do love the dolce far niente in Italy. The art of doing nothing.
Per cortesia, me lo ripeti ancora.
Dolce far niente.
Un'altra volta, ma adesso vorrei proprio sentire la musica delle parole.
I delivered a 200-page dossier of evidence, chats, emails, communications, invoices, photos, everything. Less than a week after my lawyer filed it, in the middle of Christmas holidays, their own lawyer contacted me, practically begging me to name a settlement amount so they could avoid going to trial. With my lawyer, I asked for a 5-figure sum. They accepted without a single complaint. On the day of the settlement hearing, the judge actually congratulated me and my lawyer for how thoroughly we documented everything. You see? Keep the receipts. Put them in a nice little folder. Print them if you have to.
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
She then turned to my ex-boss and gave him a stern warning about his appalling conduct, adding, we're honestly tired of seeing your name in court. Ooh, clock it. That is crazy. The fact that he'd been there before, oh my God. And he didn't learn, my goodness. But he's been to court before and he's still sending threatening and angry emails. Could never be me. 2 coworkers, 25 female and 35 male, are having an affair. How can I inform the wife? Well, there's a few options. You could do phone call, you could do in person, you could do text, email, voice note, carrier pigeon, letter on the front step. Plenty of ways. I, 25 female, work as a receptionist. 4 months ago, I made the stupid decision to recommend my now former best friend Jane for an open position after someone had left. It's a prestigious hotel, so they're very secretive about the hiring process. Jane had little to no experience, so I took a risk by vouching for her. Looking back, it was dumb, but I knew she was a hard worker and I couldn't have guessed what was to come. I trained her during her first month and she picked things up quickly. After that, we began working separate shifts. It was around this time that I started noticing a weird dynamic between her, 35 plus male, our chief receptionist. One night, when I arrived for my shift, I found them acting all giggly and their body language just seemed off. They didn't notice me at first, but when they did, they tried a little too much to act cool, which raised some red flags. There have been too many similar situations over the months, but I tried to deny it. John just had a baby, and his wife comes in at least 4 to 5 times per week, sometimes with the baby too. Jane sees this as well, ooh, and I just couldn't think she would do something like that.
That's gonna be a yikes for me, dog.
But the awkward tension, quick glances, and giggles just wouldn't quit. So I brought it up 2 weeks ago when we were out for drinks. I was floored by her response. She confessed in a playful manner, almost like sharing a dirty secret. She said they couldn't keep their hands off each other and that she had wanted to spill the tea, but didn't want to involve me in the drama. I wouldn't necessarily call this spilling the tea. I would say this is more of like you're confessing something really bad. This isn't tea. This is people's lives, okay? When I brought up his wife and their newborn child, she said she didn't care. Apparently, John told her they'd been sleeping in separate beds and his wife stopped caring about the marriage after the pregnancy and other BS like that. Same old story. I was disgusted and we had a major fight. She stormed off and cut off all contact with me. Since then, going to work has been hell. John is in charge of our shifts, and ever since our fight, he's been giving me the worst shifts and making sure we're not scheduled together. Bold move for somebody who's literally literally about to lose his job and his family. I've considered telling the wife since day one, but I don't have any proof. Same with our manager and HR. I texted Jane saying, tell your boyfriend to stop giving me the worst shifts, hoping for a response that could serve as evidence, but she didn't reply. I'm a little disappointed that you didn't tell the wife and not just when it was like, okay, I have really shitty shifts. 1 week ago, someone got sick and I had to work with the two evil fricks. Close to our lunch break, John's wife came in to bring him lunch. She looked tired as hell and my heart broke for her. Then I noticed something on John's wrist. He had Jane's scrunchie on his wrist. He also has long hair, but I know for a fact it's hers. He held and kissed the baby with the fucking scrunchie on his wrist. Oh, he gotta go. I legitimately thought I was going to throw up. I had a panic attack, I think, at the smoking area. I was crying and couldn't breathe. I come from a divorced family because of my father's infidelity, so this hits too close to home. I'm losing sleep. Please tell me what I should do in this situation. Should I send the wife an anonymous message? I only have her Instagram. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I do think that you should tell the wife. In any situation like this, like not only is this affecting your work life, but it's also really messed up. And like, yeah, you could run the risk of her not believing you or something, but I genuinely think it would be a good idea for you to set some alarm bells off. Like even if she doesn't believe you initially, that seed will be planted. She will start to be a little more careful and maybe she might start to see signs on her own if she hasn't already. So some people are saying you need to tell the manager above John. Yeah, that would help. That would help. But I think it's not just a matter of like you have a shitty time at work because of these people. It's also like a matter of values and like guilt, you know, wanting to be a bigger person. And like, maybe you don't want any blowback on you. Let's be honest, you know about them and probably everybody knows about them. So I feel like that's unavoidable. But I genuinely think that you need to step up here. I don't know about telling the wife, but I'd be tempted to tell John, not your friend, that he had better stop giving you the worst shifts just because his girlfriend thinks it's fun to sleep with a married man. And the nerve of him saying his wife doesn't care about the marriage since the baby. She's probably just trying not to lose it with not getting sleep and dealing with a newborn. Man babies are the worst. I hate this excuse.
Baby, you don't want to sleep with me right now.
Shut up. Wham, wham, wham. Shut up. She doesn't care about the marriage, but shows up multiple times a week to visit her husband and bring him lunch. That is a very, very good point. Doesn't really seem like she doesn't care about the marriage. This is just something that he's telling your friend, ex-friend, hopefully, to get her to think that he's gonna leave his wife. The fact that she can even sit there and hear him say one thing, but then see complete evidence of the opposite is just, she's delulu. If you don't care about a marriage, you don't show up literally every day to see your husband and bring him lunch. So people are saying tell the wife because she deserves better than a crap husband who cheats on her while she's caring for a newborn. F him. And then people are saying ordinarily I'd agree with you, but nah, tell management through a letter from an outside attorney. Then let John explain to his wife that he got fired to spare the company from a lawsuit after he engaged in workplace retaliation to cover up his affair. He sounds like a type of person that like wouldn't admit to it though. Like I don't know if I would trust him with that information. Like he'll find some other excuse. He's lying about the reason why he wants to have an affair. He's lying about how good his wife is to him so that he can have his cake and eat it too. I wouldn't trust this guy as far as I can throw him. I think based on how I feel about this and also how other people feel about this, I think you should tell the wife. And then other people are also saying like, stop working here. Your work life sucks. You don't want to have to see your friend anymore. I would want to get really far away from this mess. Do your due diligence as an honorable member of society and get the fuck out of there. We got one more that's worth noting. And this is from the Charlotte Dobre YouTube subreddit, which I literally just checked and we are number 5 in creators and influencers on Reddit. That is wild. We have almost 200,000 members. Honestly, you guys are amazing. I cannot believe that. This was just like a random cool idea that I had that's like, you know what? Let's create a community where I can not only create content from, but you guys also help each other and you share your stories and you get the support that you need with your problems. Even if I don't read it in a video, I'm happy that you guys have a place to do that. After 7 years, I quit by handing in my resignation mid-ambush. My boss and her cronies cried over samosas. Hey everyone, longtime lurker, first time poster, welcome. Thank you for sharing. I need to vent about my previous workplace. This all went down about 2 to 3 years ago, but I still think about how insane it was. I, 27 female at the time, had worked for this IT food growing company for 8 years, moving up from sales to a role in creditors. Then a restructuring brought in Camilla. not her real name, who reported to the director of finance. She hired 2 managers, Sally and Callie, and together they formed the toxic trio. First red flag, Camilla had these intense, crazy eyes, like from How I Met Your Mother. She proved me right by systematically targeting people to make their lives so unbearable they'd quit. Here are just a few highlights of the chaos. The daily greeting ritual. We worked in a huge open plan office. Most of us would get in, grab a coffee, say a quick good morning, put our headphones in, and get to work. Camilla, however, was always late, but expected a royal greeting. If you didn't stop what you were doing the second she arrived to acknowledge her, you'd get pulled into a meeting about respect. She literally reprimanded you by not like greeting her and stopping what you were doing. That's cray cray. One could argue that you can't just like stop what you're doing. You're literally on company time here right now. Chaos 1, the samosa incident. On lunch break, I bought a bunch of samosas on a special and gave them to a few random coworkers near me. Just a nice gesture. Camilla and Callie called me into a meeting for a verbal warning. They said I was excluding them and that their feelings were hurt. They started crying because they didn't get a samosa. I was sitting there stunned, thinking, are 2 grown women actually crying over fried dough and potatoes? Sounds like they are. Chaos 2, the grilled cheese betrayal. I used to make secret grilled cheese sandwiches for our finance group. Camilla knew and even asked for some. But after another one of her episodes, I'd had enough. I took my snacks and kitchen utensils home, leaving only my stationery. 10 minutes after I left for the day, she was running around the office telling people I wasn't coming back. I know this because I was locked out of my laptop the next morning until IT fixed it. Chaos 3, the disrespectful ambush. Camilla came in one day clearly upset about something. I made the mistake of asking if I could help. She lost her crap on me, calling me disrespectful in front of the entire office. I calmly replied, you should treat others with the respect you want to be treated with first. She immediately stormed off to HR. Speaking of HR, Camilla became best friends with them along with other department managers. Any complaint about her was blocked, and anyone who tried would be bullied by Camilla, Sally, and Callie until they quit. Cammy, Sally, and Callie. Oh my goodness, kill me now. Their favorite trick, scheduling pointless hour-long meetings during month end when every second counts. If we missed deadlines because of these meetings, we would get written up. They'd stack these write-ups and within 2 months have enough to call a disciplinary hearing to fire someone. Sounds like these people are literally a liability. Like they're literally costing the company money with their antics. I was so overworked and stressed that if I made one tiny mistake, like forgetting to process one single invoice, it would trigger multiple improvement meetings. Meanwhile, people kept quitting and I was expected to handle my workload plus everyone else's without any compensation. Oh, hell no. See, this is the thing with people like micromanagers, like a toxic workplace. I worked in a toxic workplace where, you know, everybody just kind of kept their head down and like people started to like care less and stuff like that because literally anything you do would be documented and reprimanded. You wouldn't even know that what you did wasn't okay and you would get called into a meeting where you're being told that, you know, you're like breaking some company rule or whatever, or like, you know, everybody's just kikiing with each other, talking shit about each other, scaring the crap out of you. And I can tell you firsthand that if there's anything that's an enemy to productivity, it's sitting at your desk overthinking about being in trouble. I had wasted so many hours sitting there, like pissed off, gathering receipts and evidence on the clock, by the way. I could have been working so hard at that time, but all I could do was think about how angry and upset I was. It doesn't help. All you're doing is making people resentful. So this was the final straw. One night, I got a WhatsApp message. There's a meeting tomorrow very early. You should be there. I knew it was an ambush. They were building a case to fire me. I immediately started looking for new jobs and typed out my resignation letter. I walked into that meeting and they slid a piece of paper across the table. A notice for a disciplinary hearing in 2 days. I Uno reversed that shit so fast. I smiled, slid my resignation letter right back at them and said, I quit, effective immediately. I took the disciplinary hearing notice with me. I was crying tears of relief and anger as I walked out. Everyone could see something had happened and I didn't hold back. I showed my close colleagues the disciplinary paper and said I'm quitting because of them. Within 30 minutes, I was escorted from the building. They paid my 30-day notice period, but I was banned from returning. They watched me get into my Uber and drive away before they went back inside. With toxic workplaces, it just blows my mind how they don't realize that you could get another job. Like if I'm so terrible at my job, then why don't you figure out a way of replacing me? And right now. by the way. This is just classic. They were mean girls in high school and now they're mean girls at work. They enjoy the power. They fail to recognize that most jobs are temporary. And in my experience, it's gonna blow up in their face because the person who's higher up is gonna be like, why is everyone quitting? Literally, why can't you guys keep someone in a position? You're hiring people who are not qualified because there's no one left. These people are affecting the way that the office works and work is bad and stuff's not working out. Like, what is going on here? It almost always blows up in their face or the company literally goes bankrupt. Either way. Good for you for getting out of that toxic workplace, my dear. It's never worth it. There's always another job. One that you'll actually enjoy going to. Subscribe!